I was lying on the marble floor of my own apartment when my father walked through the door in his white dress uniform. Blood was running from my lip. My blue evening gown was torn at the shoulder. My fiancé, Ivan, was standing over me with his fists still clenched. Behind him stood my stepsister, Vanessa, wearing my mother's diamond necklace. Neither of them had expected Admiral William Mercer to come home that night. I had not expected him either. My father looked at me, then at Evan. His face became perfectly still. Anyone who knew him understood that silence was more dangerous than shouting. Evan stepped backward. "Sir, this isn't what it looks like." My father removed his white cap and placed it carefully on the table. "Then start explaining," he said. That was the moment Evan realized the woman he had tried to break was not alone. But the truth had started 6 months earlier. "My name is Claire Mercer. I was 34 years old, living in Dallas, and engaged to a man I believed was kind, patient, and honest." Evan Cole worked as the financial director of the Mercer Veterans Foundation, the charity my mother had created before she died. We helped military families pay rent, find counseling, and rebuild their lives after a crisis. Evan understood how important the foundation was to me. At least, I thought he did. My father had spent most of his life serving overseas. After my mother's death, the foundation became the one thing that kept our family connected. I managed its public programs. Evan handled the money. Vanessa handled our events. She was my stepsister from my father's brief second marriage. We had never been close, but I kept trying. Vanessa was charming in public and cruel in private. She made small comments about my clothes, my work, and the way my father trusted me. Whenever I complained, Evan defended her. "She's insecure," he would say. "Be the bigger person." So I was. I ignored the late-night messages between them. I ignored the private jokes that stopped when I entered a room. I even ignored the expensive perfume I smelled on Evan's shirt, because it was the same perfume Vanessa wore. Love can make an intelligent woman negotiate with facts. The first real warning came on a Tuesday morning. A woman named Maria Ortiz arrived at the foundation with 2 children and an eviction notice. Our records said her emergency grant had been approved 3 weeks earlier. Maria said she had never received $1. I called Evan. He told me the bank had delayed the transfer. The next day, another veteran called about a missing payment. Then, a counselor in Houston said our last 3 invoices had been rejected. When I asked Evan to show me the accounts, he smiled and kissed my forehead. "You handle people," he said. "Let me handle numbers." His answer sounded gentle, but it felt like a locked door. That evening, I stayed late at the office. I searched through our digital records and found payments to a consulting company called Blue Cedar Strategies. The company had received more than $800,000 in 9 months. I had never heard of it. I checked the address. It belonged to a mailbox store in Fort Worth. I checked the company registration. The owner was listed as V. Lane. Vanessa's mother's maiden name was Lane. My hands went cold. I copied everything onto a small flash drive. Bank statements, contracts, approval forms. Several carried my electronic signature, although I had never seen them before. Someone was stealing from the foundation and making it look as if I had approved it. Before I could leave, I heard the elevator doors open. Evan and Vanessa stepped into the office. They were holding hands. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Vanessa looked at the open files on my screen. Her face changed. "How much did you see?" she asked. I wanted to cry. I wanted to demand an explanation about the money, the lies, and the affair. But some quiet voice inside me said that questions would only tell them what I knew. So I lied. "Nothing. I was checking tomorrow's schedule." Ivan studied me. Then he smiled. "Good," he said. "Let's go home." That smile frightened me more than anger would have. I slipped the flash drive into the lining of my purse and followed them downstairs. For the next week, I pretended everything was normal. I laughed when Avon discussed our wedding. I helped Vanessa choose decorations for our annual military families gala. At night, after Avon fell asleep, I searched for more evidence. Blue Cedar was only the beginning. Avon had created 5 false companies. He and Vanessa had stolen nearly $2 million. They planned to transfer the final reserve fund after the gala, then blame me for the entire scheme. I found an email in which Evan wrote, "Once Claire signs the wedding documents, we control her shares too." Vanessa replied, "And if she refuses?" His answer was one sentence. "Then we make her look unstable." I felt sick, but I kept reading. They had been collecting private messages from the months after my mother died. They planned to use my grief, my sleeping medication, and my visits to a therapist as proof that I could not manage the foundation. Their betrayal was not sudden. It was a business plan. I called my father, but his number went directly to voicemail. He was on a final diplomatic assignment in Europe and was not supposed to return for another month. I left no message. I did not want Evan to know I had reached out. Instead, I contacted Grace Holloway, a forensic accountant who had served with my mother on the foundation's first board. Grace listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Do not confront them. Send me copies and keep acting normal." We spent the next 2 weeks building a case. Grace traced the stolen money through shell companies and luxury purchases. Vanessa had bought a condo in Miami, even had placed a deposit on a yacht. They had also forged my signature on a personal guarantee. If their plan worked, I would lose the foundation, my home, and possibly my freedom. Grace contacted federal investigators. They wanted proof that Evan and Vanessa personally controlled the accounts. We decided the gala would be our chance. The foundation's entire board would be there. So would donors, reporters, veterans, and leaders from across Texas. I would announce a surprise audit from the stage. Grace would monitor the accounts. If Evan tried to move the reserve fund, the investigators would capture the transaction. It was a good plan. Then Evan found the flash drive. On the night before the gala, I came home and found him waiting in the dark. Vanessa stood near the windows, wearing the diamond necklace my mother had left to me. I had kept it in a locked drawer. Evan held the flash drive between 2 fingers. "Were you looking for this?" he asked. I moved toward the door, but Vanessa locked it. Evan told me to unlock my phone and give him the password to the foundation's reserve account. I refused. He grabbed my arm. I told him the police already knew everything. It was a bluff, but it made Vanessa panic. She began shouting that the plan had been Evan's idea. Evan called her a liar. For the first time, I watched their partnership crack. I tried to reach the door during the argument. Evan caught me and threw me against the edge of a table. Pain exploded through my shoulder. I fell to the floor. Vanessa stared at me horrified, but she did nothing. Evan knelt beside me and spoke in the same calm voice he once used when he said he loved me. "Tomorrow, you will tell the board you made the transfers. Then you will resign. If you don't, I'll make sure everyone believes you stole the money during a breakdown." I looked at the man I had planned to marry. "And after that?" I asked. He smiled. "After that, Vanessa and I disappear." That was when the front door opened. My father entered in his white uniform, with my Aunt Laura just behind him. Grace had called him after I missed our scheduled check-in. He had landed in Dallas 2 hours earlier and driven directly to my apartment. When he saw me on the floor, the room became silent. Evan tried to explain. Vanessa began crying. My father listened for less than a minute. Then he turned to me. "Claire, do you want to leave?" It was such a simple question. He did not order me. He did not decide for me. He gave me back the choice Evan had tried to take away. "Yes," I said. My father helped me stand. Aunt Laura wrapped her coat around my shoulders. As we moved toward the door, Evan said the one thing that changed everything. "If she walks out, the foundation is finished." I stopped. He thought I was still afraid of him. He was wrong. I turned around and said, "I'll see you at the gala." The next evening, I entered the ballroom wearing another blue dress. Makeup covered the bruises on my face, but I left a small mark visible near my shoulder. Evan looked confident. He believed he had destroyed the only copy of the evidence. He did not know the flash drive had been a decoy. Grace had every document. Vanessa approached me near the stage. The necklace was gone. "We can still fix this," she whispered. "Blame Evan. I'll support you." I looked at her and remembered every time she had smiled while helping him ruin my life. You had a chance to help me when I was on the floor, I said. You chose him. Her face became pale. At 8 o'clock, I walked onto the stage. More than 400 people watched me take the microphone. I began with the speech Evan expected. I thanked our donors. I spoke about duty, sacrifice, and trust. Then the screens behind me changed. Bank transfers appeared. Company records followed. Then came emails between Evan and Vanessa, including the message about making me look unstable. The room filled with shocked whispers. Evan rushed toward the control table, but 2 federal agents blocked him. Vanessa tried to leave through the kitchen. Another agent was waiting there. I faced the audience. Last night, these 2 people demanded that I confess to crimes they committed. Tonight, they attempted one final transfer from our reserve fund. Grace displayed the transaction request with Evan's authorization code and Vanessa's company account. They had taken the bait. Evan shouted that I had arranged everything. In a way, he was right. He had taught me to stop trusting words. So I gave the truth documents, timestamps, and witnesses. The agents arrested them in front of the board they had planned to deceive. Evan lost his job, his professional license, and every dollar he had hidden. Vanessa's condo and jewelry were seized. Both eventually accepted prison sentences as part of federal plea agreements. But I was not finished. I sold the engagement ring and donated the money to Maria Ortiz, the woman whose missing grant had started my investigation. The foundation recovered most of the stolen funds through seized assets and insurance. I also changed its leadership rules. No single person would ever again control the accounts. Every major transfer would require independent review. My father offered to become chairman. I told him no. Then I asked him to join the board as one vote among many. He smiled and said, "That sounds fair." For years, I had believed strength meant enduring pain quietly. I thought loyalty meant forgiving every warning sign. I thought love required me to doubt myself. I know better now. 6 months after the gala, Maria stood beside me as we opened a new emergency housing center for veterans and their families. My shoulder had healed. The bruises were gone. The fear was not completely gone, but it no longer controlled me. My father attended in an ordinary gray suit. No medals, no uniform, just my dad. Before the ribbon cutting, he asked if I regretted going to the gala that night. I looked at the families waiting behind us, then at the building paid for with money Ivan had tried to steal. "No," I said. "They wanted my name, my future, and my voice. All they managed to take was my trust." Then I cut the ribbon. Evan once told me that walking away would destroy everything I loved. He was wrong. Walking away saved it, and when I finally turned back, it was not for revenge alone. It was to make sure the truth watched him lose everything he had tried to steal from me. THEEND.